Welcome back. One final point before we go tonight. What the mainstream media was afraid to tell you about the news this week. This week, while the mainstream media obsessed with hating President Trump, per usual, here are the things that happened that really matter. 101 Democratic lawmakers endorsed CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. CARE claims to champion Muslim Americans, but in truth, CARE is tied to radical Islamists. CARE was an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest terror financing prosecution in U.S. history. They are the U.S. branch of Hamas, which is the Palestinian version of the Muslim Brotherhood, whose goal is to impose Sharia law on the Western world, including America. But did the mainstream media report the truth about Democrats honoring this organization? No, they didn't. Radical hate preacher Louis Farrakhan, the anti-Semite, who is beloved by many figures in the Democratic Party, such as Women's March co-chair Linda Sarsour, and even President Obama hugged Farrakhan. Farrakhan traveled to Iran this week and chanted death to America. Meanwhile, Democratic lawmakers and Democratic activists still refuse to condemn him. Did the mainstream media report this story to you? No, because the mainstream media are pawns of the left, and the left has a major anti-Semitism problem. The mainstream media doesn't care to report any of that to you, so we will. And that is my final point.
Now, if my Muslim friends were here, and I invited some, I invited Hassan Shibli, who used to be a friend of mine until he went over to CARE, which is a terrorist organization. And I tell all my former Muslim friends, if you go to CARE, you become an enemy of the state and an enemy of Tom Trento, an ideological enemy. It's that simple. Hassan Shibli, I understand, was working his little scam with the city of Venice. They do this all the time all over the country. When one of us speaks someplace, they go in, play the victim card, and try to get the administration in a particular municipality ultimately to do sensitivity training. CARE is a terrorist organization. They are Hamas. I'm going to establish evidence tonight to show that and prove that point. Right now, these are the 6 main Muslim Brotherhood operatives that advise President Obama on a daily basis. These are vile individuals that are anti-American. They have been placed in these high levels by this administration. I mean, these guys are deeply involved. But I want to draw attention for today. We can do briefs on each one of these, extensive briefs. I want to look at Imam Mohammed Majid, second from the right. We're going to look at him a little bit today. And became the imam in Dulles, the all-area Dulles network. Got involved with Dar al-Hijra, the mosque in Falls Church, which Anwar al-Awlaki was in. It's called the Jihad Mosque because it had a lot of jihadis. Anwar al-Awlaki was the American imam who was doing prayer services at the Capitol as he was managing the 9/11 terrorists at the same time. And Anwar al-Awlaki finally took off, and a drone got him a few years ago out in Yemen. But Mohammed Majid is a Muslim brother, hardcore, cultural jihadi, and he is deeply involved in this administration. These are 2 Republicans, and we call these guys out all over the place. Grover Norquist, who's a hero on tax reform for the Republican Party. He is a devious, diabolical Muslim Brotherhood operator in the United States of America, and we say that everywhere we go, and we challenge him, and he has hurt this country tremendously by bringing people like Alamoudi and others into government, placed as agents of influence. And Suhail Khan is his right-hand man that we have busted open in different meetings and videotaped him saying stuff that he regretted saying. But the umbrella organization for the various 400, 500, 600 Muslim Brotherhood entities in the United States. It started back in 1963, that organization, and it's headed by, I'm going to show you in a second, none other than President Obama's #1 Muslim advisor, Imam Mohammed Majid. He runs a terrorist organization. That organization has contributed zero to the United States of America. It is a cultural terrorist organization. It is a kinetic terrorist organization. Many real-life terrorists have grew up in that and are in this. He put up $21 million. His name is Yosef Nada. Nice guy, except He's the financier for the Muslim Brotherhood worldwide. He has been indicted by the United States as being a terrorist, and he's still fighting some of that. In 2001, there was a raid on his offices, and a document was found called The Project. Now understand, he's the financier for the Muslim Brotherhood. Project was written in 1982. The document, though, it doesn't contain the words Muslim Brotherhood. It is the outline for the plan for Muslims to infiltrate and defeat the West and the United States. This was in the document found in Nada's house. Nada's the financier of ISNA. ISNA's headed up by President Obama's right-hand man, Imam Mohammed Majid. Evidence that ISNA and the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE are terrorists. That's where this information came out. Infiltrating and taking over existing Muslim organizations and realigning them towards the Brotherhood's collective goals. Using deception to mask the intended goals of Islamist actions involving ideological committed Muslims in democratically elected institutions on all levels in the West, including government, NGOs. This is an influence operation. I work with a lot of former CIA people. This is what they do in other countries. This is what's happening here by the Muslim Brotherhood. This is called subversion. And it's a violation of federal law to do this stuff. Inflaming violence and keeping Muslims living in the West in a jihad frame of mind. Supporting jihad movements across the... How the hell is this jihad word being used? You are dummies. Dummies. If anybody tells you jihad means anything other than a religious war to kill other people, these are the leaders articulating a militaristic doctrine. Supporting jihad movements across the Muslim world through preaching, propaganda, personnel funding, technical and operational support. Making the Palestinian cause a global wedge issue. Don't be leftists, buy into this. They want that sword to fester. So the 15, 18, 19, 20-year-old frustrated Islamic kids, men, can fight and kill as directed by Osama bin Laden, Anwar al-Awlaki, and the others. Adopting the total liberation of Palestine from Israel and the creation of an Islamic State as a keystone in the plan for global Islamic domination. Instigating a constant campaign to incite hatred by Muslims against Jews. It's in their DNA. And rejecting any discussions of conciliation or coexistence with them. Their doctrine does not allow it. Actively creating jihad terror cells in Palestine. Linking the terrorist activities in Palestine with the global terror movement. Collecting sufficient funds to indefinitely perpetuate and support jihad around the world. This is evidence in a trial. There's 2,200 mosques in America. There were only 1,000 when 9/11 hit. The Saudis had a building campaign, built another 1,200 since 9/11. 85% of those are funded by the Saudis. 85% are practicing by doctrine, subversion in their mosques. Factually, we have the evidence. Hamas, their charter says that they're one of the wings of the Muslim Brotherhood, and they will exist until they obliterate Israel. Back to the Muslim Brothers. How are we in this situation? These guys have the ear of the president. This is Imam Mohammed Majid. That's the president with Imam Mohammed Majid. That's the president with Mohammed Majid. And some other friends at one of the events. That's the president with who? Umma Abedin. Muslim Brotherhood memorandum was written in 1991, discovered in 2004. Another raid on a Muslim's house in Virginia. A cop is at the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, a big bridge. You don't have to be too sharp to notice this, but there's two people at the base of the bridge. A woman is in complete niqab. And they're taking pictures of the structure of the bridge. The state trooper goes, I don't know about this. So he goes to have a little talk with them. Turns out that al-Barasi, Mohammed al-Barasi is his name. There's a warrant for him out of Chicago. So they pull him in. And the FBI says, we want to take a look at this guy. They go into his house in Annandale, Virginia, 2004, not too long ago. And they go in his basement. Start knocking around. FBI's tricky. They find a sub-basement in Annandale, Virginia, 2004. go in the sub-basement. Over 10,000 documents. The archives of the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States of America found 2004 in Annandale, Virginia. They became the basis for this suit against all these Muslim groups like CARE, which are terrorist organizations. I'll show you that. The FBI and the law enforcement agencies submitted a small portion of these documents. There's tons of them. This administration is letting them ice. They don't want to do anything with them because the advisors to the president on all things Muslim, President Obama, if you want to have good relations with Muslims, we can't be prosecuting Muslims. It's not going to work. Now listen what was found in the Muslim Brotherhood 18-page document. The project was 12 pages. I showed you 2 pages of 12. I'm showing you 1 paragraph of 18. The exact detailed plans for taking over the United States of America are in both documents. If you read that, you go, wow, these people are serious. And one was written in 82, one was written in 91. And you go, they've been doing this for 30 years. The process of settlement is a civilization jihadist process with all the word means. The Ikhwan, the Muslim Brotherhood, must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating peacefully and destroying peacefully the Western civilization from within and sabotaging its miserable house by their hands, your hands, and the hands of the believers so that it is eliminated and God's religion, Islam, is made victorious over all religions. This is the unindicted co-conspirators, a list of the unindicted co-conspirators, the handful that came out of the Holy Land Foundation trial, where 5 were found guilty, 5 people. 5 of them were locked up. They're doing for 15 to 60 years. Then there's just a few more names. 330 people and organizations. Unindicted co-conspirators not really being watched by this administration. And one of the organizations is the Islamic Society of North America, ISNA, that is run by him. Remember where he lives? In the White House? He heads an organization that is viewed as a connection to terrorism, funding Hamas to kill Jews. He's the head of it. In what sane world should he not be in jail, or certainly not hold the position of counselor to the President of the United States? On its face, on the facts. This guy, I invited my friend Hassan Shibli here tonight. Hassan, you here? He heads up CARE for the state of Florida. He was just awarded Chapter of the Year by Nihad Awad, a cultural terrorist, a terrorist supporter. He heads up CARE National. So Florida is the best CARE chapter in the country. Give yourselves a hand. Hassan, lovely guy, lawyer, all of that, very sweet, very deferential, very smart. He is a terrorist. He supports terrorism. He says he doesn't, all of that. But his organization does. He's connected with his organization. He heads his organization. He lives and breathes with these people. He cannot exonerate himself from the dirt that's all around him by putting on a nice hat and talking very sweetly. So he's a dangerous individual for the state of Florida. And a federal judge, because CARE tried to get their name removed from this unindicted co-conspirator status. They went to court. They spent a lot of money. And the judge said, no way. You are Hamas. The best way to understand CARE today, Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE is Hamas.
And Americans are being told that many of the mainstream Muslim groups are also moderate, when in fact, if you look a little closer, you'll see a very different reality. One of their primary tactics is deception. They present themselves as moderate leaders committed to peace and condemning terror.
As Muslims, we want to state clearly
that those who commit acts of terror in the name of Islam are betraying the teachings of the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad.
But when asked about specific terrorist groups, CARE officials are either evasive or outright supportive.
Does CARE have a position on Palestinian Islamic Jihad?
We haven't published one.
No, don't you think that...
Oh, you gotta...
You don't...
They just lie about the terrorist organization.
It's not a terrorist organization.
And in 2000, Abdurrahman al-Amoudi openly supported terrorist groups.
Anybody is a supporter of Hamas here? Hear that, Bill Clinton? We are all supporters of Hamas. Allahu Akbar. Anybody supports Hezbollah here? Takbir. Takbir.
But al-Amoudi went further than just cheering for these groups. In 2004, he was actually arrested on terror charges. Perhaps what made the al-Amoudi case so troubling was that he was considered by many in the media and government to be a moderate Muslim leader. And al-Amoudi isn't the only leader who's had a problem with the law. Many so-called moderate Muslim leaders have been convicted on terror-related charges. To be fair, on their website, CARE has condemned Al-Qaeda by name. But why won't they condemn Hamas or Hezbollah?
And you sit here now and in just one sentence tell me CARE condemns Hamas and CARE condemns Hezbollah.
I'm telling you in a very clear fashion, CARE condemns terrorist acts, whoever commits them, wherever they commit them, whenever they commit them.
That's not the same thing as saying you condemn Hamas and you condemn Hezbollah.
Well, I recognize that you don't like my answer to the question.
The FBI uncovered a secret document that seems to answer this and many other questions. This is believed to be the manifesto of the Muslim Brotherhood in North America.
Hamas grew out of the Muslim Brotherhood. Palestinian Islamic Jihad grew out of the Muslim Brotherhood. From the Egyptian Islamic Jihad movement grew the current movement of Al-Qaeda, for instance.
This 15-page manifesto outlines the goals and strategies of the Muslim Brotherhood's activities in North America. On page 7, the document states that their work in America is a kind of a grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within. And then it speaks about setting up groups and mosques and Islamic centers to achieve their ultimate goal, which is to destroy the miserable houses of the West so that they will be expelled and that Allah's religion is made victorious over all other religions. And at the end of the document, it lists the organizations that can help in carrying out these goals. Not only are many of these groups still in existence today, but they are the very groups who are thought to be the moderate Muslim leadership of America. These are the groups like the MSA, ISNA, and notably the IAP. And where does CARE fit into all of this? In 1994, CARE was established by 3 of the leaders from the IAP. And it's well documented that the IAP was essentially a front group for Hamas. So perhaps that would explain why CARE won't condemn terror groups like Hamas, and also why they avoided participating in my Muslims Against Terror rally in 2004. In keeping with the goals of the document, many so-called moderate Muslim leaders have been caught on tape calling on America to become a Muslim country.
We have a chance in America to be the moral leadership of America. The problem is when. It will happen, and alhamdulillah, I have no doubt in my mind. It depends on me and you. Either we do it now, or we do it after 100 years. But this country will become a Muslim country.
Before Allah opens our eyes for the last time, you will see Islam will be the second largest religion in America. That's where we are now. Being the first religion in America.
Islam is coming to America not through violence. It's coming to America the same way Christianity came to Rome.
You've got Imam Abdul Musa, who is known as an influential speaker in the Muslim community around the world.
Allah says that Islam will rise to its proper position in the world, whether these mushriks, whether these munafiqs, whether these criminals, whether these zalimeen, all of them, whether they get together, still Islam will reign supreme, whether they like it or not.
He's quite open about his goals.
In fact, on our website, we talk about the Islamic State of North America by 2050.
Musa is also an outspoken supporter of Hamas.
Hamas And Hezbollah are good people. They're good people. They don't deserve any condemnation. They deserve congratulations. They're good people.
And also an admirer of Iranian President Ahmadinejad.
Ahmadinejad? It's a good man. I got some pictures of him. That's President Ahmadinejad. President Ahmadinejad again. President Ahmadinejad. Ahmadinejad is a very good man. You guys and loved by most of the people around the world.
Are you starting to see a pattern here?
America needs to understand that the jihadist machine is already within the society.
The leaders of radical Islam, or many of them, realized that they cannot win the United States at the military level. So they plot another thing or another plot to infiltrate America from within.